Glad to have you back. It's still Business Daily right here on Trust Television. Now we're going into our discussion for the day. We're looking at the subsidy removal and what options are available for Nigeria. I have my guest right here in the studio. Mustafa Audu is the CEO, Electric Motor Vehicles Company, EMVC. Glad to have you on Business Daily.
I'm glad to be here.
Yes, yeah. Many people seeing you now, they'll think, oh, we want to discuss politics on business.
I am also a businessman first, actually before the politics, because we always advocate that politicians should actually have something that they do.
Absolutely.
It means that you can focus on developing or building the office you're entrusted with rather than enriching yourself because you don't have a means of livelihood.
Absolutely. Now, desperate times, they say, call for desperate measures. Now, the price of petroleum in Nigeria has gone up so high. Nigerians are looking for options. You are one of the advocates of electric motor vehicle.
Yes.
Do you think, given our current power situation, that can work here?
I think this is the perfect time for it. It's the best time to invest in a different alternative energy source. You can see that fossil fuels is becoming a thing of the past around the world. And in Nigeria, the cost of fossil fuels, such as petrol, has just more than tripled. So as citizens, we have to find a way of survival. And in every situation like this, you find opportunities. So this is clearly an opportunity for both federal government, the private sector, and everybody else to take advantage. We long foresaw the advent of electric vehicles. We've been investing in the electric vehicle market since 2019. This is 4 years. We started full production 20 years ago, and we have well over 500 vehicles out there in the market. Before subsidy removal, we were maybe selling 2-3 vehicles, a month. Today, we're selling 3-4 vehicles a day. So you can tell that Nigerians are ready, and this has provided an opportunity. And if you look at it, the knock-on effect is tremendous. The spread is tremendous because today decarbonization around the world is a source of, debt relief. We all know that Nigeria has a lot of debt. So by decarbonizing, there's debt relief. So we're getting rid of the debts that we owe simply by changing from this fossil fuel means, which are ICE, internal combustion engine vehicles, switching to electric vehicles, or CNG, which is compressed natural gas vehicles. So we develop. So right now we're in discussions with several state governments. We're in discussions with the federal government on establishment of a factory in various states, various locations that would help, create jobs, technology transfer, empower young people, wealth creation, true wealth creation, and to be honest, as a form of generating income. And there's less stress and burden on foreign exchange, And if you look at it back in the day, the reason why I was watching your program earlier, right before we came on General IBB and why the cost of vehicles in Nigeria were so low. The cost of vehicles in Nigeria for Peugeot, Volkswagen were like 5,000 naira, 4,500 naira.
That was at the point when Naira was strong.
Yes, Naira was strong. But relatively speaking, the reason why this works is simply because there was manufacturing and assembly locally that brought down the cost. There are 3 or 4 of us in the electric vehicle industry right now. There's the major player, which is the government through National Automotive Design Development Council, which is led by Jelani. Ourselves, we're the leading producers of electric vehicles right now in Nigeria. We have the most vehicles out there. There's my other friend, also my namesake, who is building electric vehicles as well. So you have a number of people there, 1 or 2 companies in Lagos as well that are building electric vehicles. So the advice to government, the advice to state governments, federal governments, businesses, to partner with up-and-coming manufacturers, both in the electric vehicle market and the CNG market, to expand the scope. Because if you expand the scope, you're going to bring down the cost of transportation. Right now, the cost of transportation has more than tripled. So I used to fill my car for 22,000 naira. Now I'm filling my car for 65,000 naira. It's insane. And this doesn't even last for 1 week. How many people can afford this?
Absolutely.
So
That's huge.
if government doesn't have intervention policies that are geared towards reducing the cost of transportation while remaining productive, while generating income, while creating jobs. So this burden is on government to devise these methods, these means of developing this sector. And the best way is to partner with entrepreneurs such as ourselves.
What about the cost? Expensive it is to maintain, especially in a country like Nigeria.
To be honest, I think that is just a lack of understanding of what is needed. For example, most people say there's no electricity in Nigeria. Why are you developing electric vehicles? And I ask the same people, well, if you say there's no electricity in Nigeria, why do you have a phone? Why do you have a tablet? Why do you have an iPad? Why do you have a TV? Why do you have a laptop? You didn't say there's no electricity, therefore no TV for you. No. So the same principle applies. People just don't understand it. It's a lack of understanding. So when we say electric vehicles, they are more like battery-powered vehicles, which you take the batteries and you charge. So by deploying the right charging infrastructure across board, you would be able to also create battery as a means of business, battery as a means of creating new jobs, as a means of generating revenue. So you're switching from one form of energy to another. You're just switching from, a pollutant to a cleaner form of energy. And the advantages are tremendous. You're reducing your carbon footprint. You'll give Nigeria access to green credit, to carbon credits as well. We'll be able to generate a lot of funds. And the good news is Saudi Arabia 3 weeks ago just signed an agreement saying any single carbon credit produced by Nigeria would be bought at a $10 premium. So right now, carbon credits are going for $76 per carbon unit, but they are willing to pay us $86 per carbon unit. So this is the perfect time to invest. You get debt relief, you're able to generate income, you're able to get free money for simply just having electric vehicles. And how that works is you say there were 10 cars, for example, on the road, producing X amount of CO2. You've removed those 10 cars, therefore you've removed X amount of CO2. You've replaced those vehicles with electric vehicles, and therefore you're entitled to carbon credits. And you simply go to the carbon exchange with evidence of what you've done, and you get money back. So citizens can do this. So if you, for example, are driving an ICE vehicle, which is an internal combustion engine vehicle, you can simply switch to an electric vehicle, and after 1 year of usage, you can simply go to the carbon exchange and say, listen, you were driving this vehicle, this is the baseline for it, this is how much pollutant it is, and now you're driving this, you've been driving this for the last 1 year, and this is how much carbon you've saved from the environment, and guess what? You get money back.
Interesting there. But how much is the buy-in of government into this project, given the fact that we are an oil-producing country and we rely so much on revenue from crude oil to run our economy? So if we're leaving that part of the sector, diversifying rather, what do you think will happen to government revenue in that regard?
Absolutely nothing. The government revenue that is being generated from sale of crude oil is not generated internally. It's generated externally. In fact, it's costing government a significant amount of that money in terms of subsidy, or it was costing government a significant amount of money. There's a lot of fraud. It was said that Nigeria was consuming 60 million barrels per day on a daily basis. I don't know about you, but every single Nigeria filling their tank up every single day sounds very fishy to me. Absolutely. So it was premised for fraud. That's just all it was. So by government switching and diversifying, guess what you're doing? You're saving the environment. A lot of crimes today, a lot of banditry, terrorism is conducted simply because of climate change. And I'll give you a typical example. In the late Chad Basin, where there was water, where they could feed their cattle, they could breed fish, rare fish. The water has dried up, it's turned to desert land. No one is policing that desert land that has just been created. Avenue for terrorists to move in. People that could generate income from the Lake Chad Basin that was there, guess what? They can no longer generate that income. So therefore, what do they turn to? Idle hands, as they say, is the devil's workshop. If you flip the globe to the other spectrum of Nigeria and you look down south, you see the same issues happening with the erosion of the mangrove, poisoning of the environment. So all of this oil spillage is knock-on effect. You cannot grow crops, you cannot fish, you cannot do a lot of things that would have otherwise put food on your table. What happens then? Young people turn to crime. So climate change has a direct correlation with terrorism, banditry, and crimes. Therefore, anything that you do to tackle climate change has a positive effect on Nigerians and on their livelihood. So direct investment in the electric vehicle sector is a bonus, a direct bonus to Nigeria. Right now, we get calls from Namibia, from Zambia, Ghana, Ivory Coast, ordering our vehicles. But we're not at the stage where we can meet the demands of export. So we're still trying to meet our local demands, still trying to build capacity to be able to produce. We want to produce 50,000 vehicles every year. From where we are to where we need to be, there's a gap. So government can bridge those gaps for people like us, people in the private sector that are developing, that are leaders in their field. We're leaders in our field. We were here long before Nigerians knew the value of what we were doing. That's what leaders, champions in their fields do. So with the right government support, we can take it from where we are to where we need to be. There are a lot of generators right now. We have technology where we can do fuel-less generator. You can do generators that you use water to generate energy. We can do generators that use battery to actually generate the energy and then transmit that energy to other batteries powering inverters. So there's a lot of technology that as entrepreneurs we can develop, but it requires a lot of funding. We have self-funded over the last few years. We've received no amount of money from any government organization. But at this stage where we are now, we have a lot of interest from government. So what we're encouraging government to do is to bridge that gap at the initial stage. Therefore, you reduce the time for, R&D, the time for development, because all of these things require funding. And sorry, just to add, if you look at the world leader today in electric vehicles, it's Tesla. Tesla is not the world leader because Tesla is selling so many Tesla vehicles all over the place. No, it has one of the smallest market share. But Tesla is the world leader today because the US government supports Tesla through contracts from NASA. So NASA is giving Tesla billions of dollars every single year, research and development, their space rockets, different designs. So Tesla has the funds to design new products, to develop, to go into weird sorts of engineering. That's what happens. There's no country that is not backing any big company you see. They're all supported by their government.
The government, indeed. Very, very interesting submission there. Let's look at it. So do you think it's actually possible to phase out the fossil fuel vehicles completely?
We can use them pari passu. For now, you don't have to phase them out. And guess what? We can also convert. So you can take an ICE vehicle and convert them into CNG or electric vehicles. The technology is there and it's easy to implement. So when the former minister, now former governor of Kaduna State, His Excellency Nasir El-Rufai, was the minister of FCT, he created several programs, the Abuja Leasing Company, where you had those green 406 taxis where people could go put down a deposit and the government will give you a car. And you use that for taxis, use that for business, and you're paying the government every month. It generates revenue for the government. It generates revenue for individuals. Likewise, all those abandoned buses that were brought in are still there on the Kubwa Expressway. We can convert those vehicles into electric vehicles. And what does that do? It saves government a lot of money from reinvesting. It also creates new jobs, new lines of revenue, new income streams. Alongside that, we can bring in buses. We can build better buses. We can build, right now we have 4 different models of electric vehicles. We have the Adoja, the Igwe, the Olori 1 and the Olori 2, and the Serki. These are various electric vehicles, 2-wheelers, 3-wheelers, 4-wheelers, that we believe serve the Nigerian populace. A lot of people are buying now, so it's reducing their cost of their transportation. They're in estates, they look beautiful, they look slick, they are noiseless. So there are a lot of advantages to using our electric vehicles that you wouldn't normally find with ICE vehicles. Therefore, investing in electric vehicles is the future. It's like those old generators that used to wind before. Things have moved from there. Before that, it was coal. You had to pour hot coal into generators. Then the winding, then now the kick starting, then the push button. There is a progression in technology, so you must adapt or be left behind.
Indeed. Talking about electric vehicle now, Nigeria will start paying more for electricity from next month, July, and we are actually advocating for electric vehicle right here. Don't you think this is going to also add, more problem to their financial burden?
You're correct to say that increasing the tariff by 40%.
By the way, is it the right thing to do, especially at this time? Is your government?
To be honest, you have to look at it from both perspectives. On the one hand, the NERC, because I've read their communique, they're saying that they've had a double hit. $1 that they used to source at 400 plus is now 700 because of equalization of the market. That's one. 2, cost of petrol that was subsidized before is no longer subsidized. So the cost of petrol has tripled. So they've had a double hit and they don't know how to meet revenue without increasing cost. Now, here is where government steps in. Government has had to do this out of necessity. What does government do? Government looks at taxes, tax elevation, tax, suspension for a period of time, because as manufacturers, as people, businessmen, we pay taxes. So we're paying taxes and all our costs all around are going up. So how does government support us? Because if we don't remain competitive, then we're going to go out of business. Then yes, you've removed fuel subsidy, but you're getting the negative effect of what you intended to do, because companies are shutting down because the cost is going up. Government needs to bridge this. How does government bridge this? By tax elevation, tax breaks, by import breaks, duty break, things like that, and giving stimulus. Government needs to put stimulus into the sector,
absolutely,
so that those that are operating in that sector, their cost does not go up tremendously. And if their cost doesn't go up tremendously, then they don't have to pass on that burden to the end user. So I think that with a well thought out plan, because what must happen has already happened. Subsidy needed to be removed. Government cannot lift subsidy on one hand and continue to subsidize the electricity sector. It's still a problem. So you have to look at this, then find a solution that is workable on the short term, medium term, and long term.
Mustafa Udo, Chief Executive Officer, Electric Motor Vehicles Company, EMVC. I must thank you for your time on Business Daily. Interesting submission there. I must thank you so much. With that, it's a wrap on Business Daily today. Join us tomorrow for more. I am Yusuf Akogun.